Hi everyone, so I'm back here, back at home, inside my own room, and now that I've actually just I had a late dinner, and actually I'm resting now. Yeah, it's actually 11 some, yeah, 11 something, almost nearing midnight, and yeah, I mean my dinner was around 10 something, but anyway, I just want to make a different video now. Since I know that Valentine's Day is ending over here, but on some other parts around the world, it's still in effect, effectively Valentine's Day. So I'm gonna make a video about the idea of love, or even what we call love bombing in um, the narcissistic relationship. So okay, I hope that by the end of this video, no matter how short or how long it is, whatever has been mentioned, that whoever watches it will get away with from get come out of it with a better understanding of what love bombing is. And yeah, love bombing is not love. Okay, just to let you know. Okay, let me just first go back to the real definition of what love bombing is. Okay, we know that the narcissistic relationship has three different phases. Okay, it begins with the first phase, which is called love bombing or idealization, and some people have even called it the grooming phase. Yeah, the grooming phase. So that is when the narcissist or the narcissistic individual starts showering signs of love, allegedly love and affection, uh, towards the victim or the supply. And as we know, it can be it can be really really excessive in some cases. It gives people the impression that it's really intense, and yeah, there's certain gestures. And uh, for example, one friend of mine was telling me that when he was love bombed, um he was like yeah, there was this French in the workplace, um, yeah, who was making all these really excessive gestures, like uh, I don't know, calling him, trying to be intense, and showing a lot of yeah, intense attraction. But uh, okay, that's the first phase. The second phase is actually right when the illusion of a so-called sweet honeymoon phase is over, and then the relationship actually uh, yeah, it goes on the downward path when the narcissist starts realizing that the idealized image of the target is not really uh, real. That is just basically it. It's an idealized image, and they realize that the target is just like anyone else, basically imperfect and human. Okay, that is when you will actually notice that the narcissist will do different things like insulting or criticizing the target, and yeah, that is a point also when the narcissist will start showing signs of you treatment. Okay, and okay, the final phase is the discard phase, and that is basically when the narcissist will actually throw and get rid of the target just like a hot potato. Okay, basically you're treated as nothing better. Okay, just a piece of garbage. Okay, worthless, useless, and basically of no use to them. Okay, so one thing is that this thing doesn't exactly always it's not like just a chronologically a one time cycle. It can be it can just go on, in repeating recurring cycles. So let's say, maybe after you are discarded by a narcissist, um, later on after that, a narcissist might just continue love bombing you again sometime later after that. So it's in cycles. Or sometimes you might even you might actually skip the discard phase and go back to the love bombing phase, and then go back after that to devaluation phase. So it can alternate before it reaches the discard phase. But One thing is this: no matter what, the basis of love bombing itself is not as much of a honeymoon period as we think it is. There's something more sinister to it. Okay, why is it in fact worse with the love bombing phase? This is very common in narcissistic relationships, because with narcissistic relationships, the love bombing actually makes the supply, the target or the victim, lower down, lower his or her guard. So what love bomb I mean what the love bombing always entails at some point or another could involve flattery, constant heaping of compliments and praises, such that it seems so unrealistic. Okay, and sometimes, like, okay, there's also the so-called whirlwind romance effect, where the person just feels like, that the target will feel, oh, I felt as if I met the soulmate of my life. But when everything comes down, crashing down during the devaluation phase, it's extremely devastating, because the target is left wondering, where did the person I fell in love with, the guy or the girl, where is she or where is he? And it can be in fact worse, because the love bombing phase has made the target lower down his or her guard, or to imagine that there's such a thing called the sweet guy or girl that they first met in the narcissist, when it doesn't even exist to begin with. Okay, so it's all an illusion and it's all a lie. Okay, so it's very, very dangerous. Okay, and this is something that is not just used by narcissists. In fact, it's used by psychopaths and sociopaths too, when they groom their victims. Okay, normally they I think it was being discovered and or even shared about on certain programs about all these those sociopaths and psychopaths who actually kidnap young girls and boys since, like, they were really, really young. Yeah, and then they groom them for years. In some cases, some of the girls were, I mean, the case of JC Dugas is JC Lee Dugas. Yeah, that was quite a number of years ago, or decades, in the States. It's kind of disturbing, because she was kidnapped when she was really young, and she ended up bearing two kids. Yeah, bearing the children of her abuser and a kidnapper, and he was assisted by his wife as well. And yeah, she went into like Stockholm syndrome, because that's the kind of thing that they do. They abuse you, but at certain points in time, they show kindness to you. The kindness that they show to you throw you into a form of like a cognitive dissonance, where you just wonder, yeah, but he or she can be good to me, so why am I thinking of him or her as the the bad person? Yeah, this is what happens. It actually makes us start, the victims or the empaths, start gaslighting ourselves and blaming ourselves instead of the perpetrators of the abuse. Okay, I'm just gonna give you a story. This is a story I heard of, and it's very common. I believe that it might sound very deja vu to some people when it comes to the idea of love bombing. Okay, I'll just without mentioning names of people, I'll just say A and B, Miss and Mister. Okay, so let me just give you the example of Miss B. Okay, Miss B and Mr. A. Okay, Miss B is the girl, the empath, or the most I mean the empathetic person, the individual who is highly sensitive. Okay, Mr. A is the narcissist. Okay, who's very into himself, who's just out to get sex and supply in different forms. Okay, I mean the gender can be switched around. It can be Mr. B and Miss A as well, or it can be Mr. A, Mr. B, yeah, or Miss A, Miss B. It can be in any kind of orientation or sex. But the main point is this. Okay, let's just go with the situation of Mr. A, the narcissist, and Miss B, the empath. Okay, what happens here is that Mr. A and Miss B, okay, they meet each other, and supposedly, it felt like at the beginning that there was some kind of attraction going on between the two of them. Okay, So during the after a certain period of time, um, let's just say that they end up having moments. They start sharing moments of physical intimacy or even sexual intimacy, and that leads supposedly that was what Miss B thought would bring the relationship to the next level as a romance. Unfortunately, Mr. A starts ghosting on Miss B right after having had what he wanted, and he decided to actually see various other girls. Okay, and I mean this silence, the radio silence that Miss B experiences from Mr. A, leaves her wondering. It can be considered a point of devaluation. What is wrong? And she feels, really, really sad. She feels like depressed, even thinking, did I do anything wrong to cause that, ghosting or disappearing act? But right when she thought that there was, nothing, that she could move on, and like maybe he wasn't really interested anyway, maybe he was just using me, Mr. A starts using something to actually induce conversation with her and saying, oh, I heard that you've been doing this from my buddy or from someone, and blah 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 blah. And Miss B falls for the trick. Okay, she's being love bombed at this. Okay, so after a period of love bombing and then devaluation, in which Mr. A disappears and sometimes occasionally even drops in hints that she's not good enough, whatever, all of a sudden he love bombs her again. At this point in time, Mr. A starts continuing to lavish Miss B with excessive gifts and showering her praise, love, attention, and so mistakenly, Miss B thought that he really really meant that he really meant what he said, that he was meaning to actually continue the relationship, and she goes back to having moments of physical and sexual intimacy with Mr. A. Uh, but but yeah, that was just her opinion, and she finds, and later on, just when she thought that everything was going well, Mr. A tells her, okay, all the terrible things and how they don't match each other, they are not suitable for each other. In fact, that he was kind of disappointed in her, and blah 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 blah, yada 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 yada. So this actually, the cycle of ghosting, which was also a form, and match with some form of devaluation, and then followed by the love bombing, that kind of repetitive cycle actually causes Miss B to be totally devastated, that she actually had to go and see a counselor or a therapist to find out what was going on. And only then did she start realizing, you know what, I was being used. He was probably monkey branching, and he was probably seeing some other girl. The girl didn't work out, and then because maybe he couldn't get sex from her, or he couldn't get some form of affection or adoration or whatever from her, and he realized, oh, I have to go back to that Miss B that I was using. Let's try to get something from her in the meantime before I find a new one. Okay, so that was what Miss B arrived at only after therapy and after counseling. Okay, so what's the takeaway from this? Love bombing is not love. Okay, love bombing is in fact way more sinister. It's in fact a way of manipulation. People actually use love bombing. I'm not saying that. I'm not even just saying that only narcissists. Even let's say any other toxic people, they can use love bombing. But love bombing is especially used by narcissists and also psychopaths and sociopaths, because it actually makes people lower down their guard. And when you lower down your guard, you're more vulnerable. You will be prone to any kind of danger that you didn't realize that you were formerly prone to. Okay, so I hope everyone realizes this and like starts watching out. If it's too good to be true, it really is too good to be true. Okay, don't downplay your your intuition. Your intuition is there. It's there to give you a kind of like a warning sign, a red flag. If it feels off, back off. Yeah, you should back off from that person. Start to examine all the red flags. Okay. um, so far, and yeah, that's it for now. Okay, I'll be making another video about revenge actually. Yeah, I'll be making a lot of videos about revenge. But this is actually this next video is about actual ways to take revenge. uh, I'll tell you what my definition of revenge against a narcissist is. Okay, it's not very conventional, and it will not get you into trouble. Okay, in fact, it'll be very good for you. Okay, so but till then, okay, I'll see you again. And if you have any like interesting comments or observations about love bombing and grooming and idealization, and how the role it plays in the whole cycle of narcissistic abuse, you can leave them down in the comments. And yeah, I have like quite a bit of experience from love bombing, being love bombed myself by people, and but who are narcissists, yeah, by narcissistic people. And a number of my friends have been love bombed before. It seems to be a common trick nowadays with like narcissistic people and individuals, and it's not very, very innocent. Okay, because once they get what they want, your attention, they will switch. It's called a bait and switch. Yeah, it's called a bait and switch, and in fact, it's very dangerous. Okay, okay. Till then anyway. So have a good one, everyone. Okay, bye bye.